He finally gets to Haran and to Laban, and he establishes himself there. And Laban has two daughters, Leah and Rachel. Leah's the older. Rachel's the younger. He falls in love with Rachel. And he goes to Laban and he says, "Hey, I want to marry your daughter Rachel." And Laban says, "You can't." Say, "What?" "No, you can't." Tradition here is the older daughter has to be married before the younger one can be married. And Leah not going to get married. She doesn't have any suitors. And it doesn't look like she's going to get any suitors. "Well, that's not fair." So he keeps pestering him. And finally, Laban is just as crooked as Jacob. And he says, "Okay, you can marry her. We'll have the wedding." And she comes and she's all bound up and I can see her eyes. And he doesn't know who he's marrying. Long story short, he marries her and spends the night with her, wakes up the next morning, and he goes to look at Rachel, and guess who it is? It's Leah. Oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you, he spent 7 years working for that marriage night. 7 years. And he got the wrong one because he got deceived. Payback. "I still want Rachel." He says, "You can have her. She's married now. Okay, you can have her. By the way, it'll cost you 7 more years." Well, okay. He works 7 more years. And he gets the woman he loves. Well, things go on, and he begins to accumulate kids and animals and property and all kinds of stuff. And finally, he's really successful, and people are beginning to talk. And God comes to Jacob and he says, "Go back to the land of your fathers, unto your relatives, and I will be with you." And again he spoke to Jacob. "I am the God of Bethel, where you anointed the pillar and where you made a vow to me. Now leave the land at once and go back to your native land." But Jacob, being true to Jacob, didn't do it God's way. Scripture says Jacob deceived Laban by not telling him he was running away. So he fled with all he had, crossed the Euphrates River, and headed to the hill country of Gilead. Now, folks, this isn't Atlas van lines going down the interstate at 70 miles an hour. This is all the household goods, the wives, the kids, the goats, the cows, the whole 9 yards, Dust Bowl, going across the desert about 2 miles a day. Needless to say, a really, really upset Laban didn't have any trouble finding them and getting there. And he comes into Jacob's camp, and he's not a happy camper. And he and Jacob began to have a little discussion. And finally, they come to an agreement. "The heap is a witness between you and me today. May the Lord keep watch between you and me when we are away from each other. If you mistreat my daughters, or if you take any wives besides my daughters, even though no one is with us, remember that God is a witness between you and me." Laban also said to Jacob, "This heap is a witness, and this pillar is a witness, that I will not go past this heap to your side to harm you, and you will not go past this heap and pillar on my side to harm me. May the Lord watch between you and me when we are away from each other." Wow. Sounds like a pretty good deal to me. Here's two guys getting together, saying, "Look, you don't cross this line, I don't cross this line. God's over it, God's seeing this, and may God keep an eye on us when we're not keeping an eye on each other." Sounds pretty good. It is a contract between thieves, is what it It's two deceivers trying to be straight. All right? So you've cheated me and I've cheated you. We've matched wits long enough. I've succeeded in manipulating everything I can get from you. You've succeeded from manipulating everything you can get from me. I've tasted your medicine. You've tasted my medicine. Neither one of us is probably ever going to change, so we better do something here. So I tell you what, I won't sneak up on you, and you won't sneak up on me when our backs are turned. That's the deal. That's the deal. So now he goes on back to home. He gets close to the threshold of his home, and a runner comes and tells him, hey, by the way, Esau is on the move, and he's got 400 armed men with him. They're coming towards us. It looks like he's going to kill you. What? It's been 20 years. Remember, Mom said, oh, when he comes down in a little while, you'll come on back. It's 20 years. Dude just stole his birthright. 20 years. Well, he starts praying. Oh, God. I hadn't prayed in a long time. And I love his prayer. He's still the old bargainer. God of my father Isaac, Lord, you said to me, go back to your country and your relatives. Save me, I pray, from the hands of my brother Esau. But you have said, I will surely make you prosper. It's manipulative. Well, God, you said. It's manipulative. Nothing in there about, God, what's your plan? God, what are you going to do? God, how are we going to work this out? God, what do you want me to do? There's no question for God as to what his response is going to be. He's sitting there thinking, okay, now how am I going to placate this guy? God, you promised me this. You've got to come through, God. But no, here's how we're going to do it. In this process comes the great dream and the great wrestling match. So Jacob was left alone, and a man wrestled with him till daybreak. Most of us have heard the story of this wrestling match. The angel of God, or God himself. How they started wrestling, and after a while, the wrestler touched Jacob on the hip and dislocated his hip, and for the rest of his life he walked with a limp. How the wrestler wrestled with Jacob until Jacob had no more strength left. All he could do was hang on. He just grabbed a hold and said, I'm not going to let go until you bless me. That's all he had the strength to do. Just hang on. So the wrestler blessed him. And after the blessing, he said to him, what's your name? He said, my name's Jacob. And he said to him, from now on, it will be Israel. He wasn't wrestling, have a wrestling match with Jacob in the sense of a wrestling match. He was wrestling for Jacob's soul. Jacob wrestled the whole night in his own human resources until they were totally exhausted. The angel met Jacob's strength for strength. He could have beat Jacob anytime he wanted to, but the whole point was he wasn't going to let Jacob win. He's just going to tire him out. Until Jacob, totally exhausted, totally given it his all, capitulates and gives in. Have you ever wrestled with God? I don't mean physically. It just goes on in there. And it isn't for a day. And sometimes it's not for a week or a month. Some of us in this room can sit there and tell us, you know what? I've been wrestling with God for years. Just all churning up going on inside there. there comes a time, as with Jacob, when God says it's time to call this to a halt. Things aren't going to carry on any longer like they have been. And out of God's abundant grace, He touches him. And out of God's abundant grace, He comes to us. And He tries to lead us. When we look at Jacob, it's as if God is saying to us through Jacob, here's a self-made man. Ambitious, shrewd, resourceful, self-reliant, clever, a master strategist. He knows how to look out for number one. No man will ever find it more difficult to learn to trust me and lean on me than Jacob. And so therefore, I'm going to make him the chief example for all time. I'm going to show you what a holy life costs. That my children must abandon human cleverness and scheming. I'll show you that I'm willing to go after you as an erring child. I'll even condescend to have a wrestling match with you. My purpose is to conquer you, that you may be a conqueror. That you may experience the victories in life I have for you. And at Peniel, Jacob's life was totally given over to God. And somewhere in our Christian experience, God is going to bring us to our Peniel, and we're going to have to be face-to-face and encounter with Him, and He's going to demand a surrender of our entire life to Him. And my friend, there are going to be bitter tears, because you're going to have to give up things you love. And there's going to be resistance. And it's going to have to be broken. The power that we think we have has to be drained away, that we might become empty. That we might experience the incoming of His power. As Paul says, I will all the more gladly boast in my weakness, that the power of Christ may rest upon me. It is only by full dependence upon Him, at the cost of totally relinquishing ourselves, an act of entire sanctification, an act of total commitment, an act of eternal yes to God. Is God then able to unleash within us all the potential, all that is within us, that we might achieve that which He created us to achieve? It doesn't come in our strength. It comes in His. Look at the disciples. They're fishermen. They're tax collectors. They're revolutionaries. Man, from wherever they lived to Jerusalem was the limit of their travels. They never dreamed of going anywhere else. Never crossed their minds. And they met Jesus. They gave all to Jesus. And now where did they go? They went off to India. They went off all over the Mediterranean. They spoke to kings and queens and governors and the wealthy and the poor and the in-between. And they traveled the Mediterranean all for Jesus.